Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new to my page, my name is Nazareth, and this is my 12-month journey learning about wealth and finances. Something I've been hearing for quite a while is that the average millionaire has 7 different income streams. I was really curious about what that means, so today I'm going to be breaking down the 8 income streams, giving you examples of each one, and explaining why this is actually really important when you're trying to understand your finances. So let's get started. The first one's earned income, and this is when you get paid for the work that you do. And this is what the majority of us think about when we're talking about how much money we make. This is also why our parents told us to go to school, get a good education, so you can get a good job and get paid well. But the problem is when you want to make more money, you can only do a couple of things here. You can either get a new job, see if you can get a raise, or you have to get an additional job. And there's really only so many hours you can work in a day, so that means that our salary is going to be capped. And this is why I believe a lot of people are now looking for alternative ways to make money, because we understand there's only so much you can do here within earned income. And that takes us to income stream number 2. And that's profit income. So what's profit income? This is when you buy something and you sell it for more money than you initially bought it for. So that way you earn that difference and make a profit. This is also what I would consider the focus of a lot of entrepreneurs. And for that reason, I think this is actually quite a common income stream. In terms of examples, I think a really interesting one happened in 2020 when we saw people stocking up on Lysol wipes and selling it for a lot more money than they bought it for. So they were actually earning profits on the rest of us who needed to buy Lysol wipes. Now, I'm not going to talk about the ethics of that because that's a whole other conversation. But in terms of making money, they probably did pretty well for themselves. And the reason for that is because they saw the need, they saw what was happening, and they took advantage of that situation. And that's what you need to do with profit. All right, so this next one is where I start to get really excited because it's not the focus of the average person, and that's interest income. Interest income is when you lend out money and you charge a specific amount so that when you're getting paid back, you get a little bit more in profit. Now, there's a bit of a risk here because when you're lending out money to random people, there's no guarantee that you're going to get your money back. But you can be a little bit more thoughtful about how you're going to do this. And for that reason, the example I'm going to give you is locking it in with a bank. You can take your money and lock it in with the bank so that in a year or 2 years or 3 years, you're getting it back with interest paid. Now that interest is quite low usually, but it's still something. Now I know a few other people who've done this in different ways, where they lend money to somebody who wants to take that and invest it in a property, and then when they get their money back, they make interest there. Now again, this is a little bit more risky because if anything goes wrong, you don't have a guarantee of getting that money back. But it's something to think about. All right, so the next one's residual income, and this is when you continue to get paid for something after the work is done. And what I've realized about this one is that usually it takes a little bit more time in the beginning, but again, you're going to keep getting paid for this after. So it's really worth the effort. And an example of it would be something like a YouTube channel. People like Lily Singh made videos 10 years ago, and she's probably still earning money off of those videos. The other thing I'll say about this one is a lot of people are focused on residual income because, again, you're investing your time now, but you're getting paid for years to come. So when you're trying to figure out where you want to put your time and how you want to work, this is really an income stream that becomes a really good investment. It's investing in yourself and in the long term. Number 5 is dividend income. And for those of you who don't know, certain companies will actually pay you just for having shares in that company. And it's all based on the number of shares that you have. So you can be getting paid monthly, quarterly, or annually. It all depends on the company. As for an example, Visa is a good one. Right now, their dividend yield is 0.6%. And that means that they'll actually give you about 0.6% of what you invest in their company annually. But the exciting thing about dividend income is if you know what you're doing, you can actually grow your wealth exponentially. And that's huge. But that's for a whole other video. So if you're interested in learning more about that, let me know in the comments and I can put something together. Okay, so the next one's rental income. And I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. It's when someone pays you to use your space. So if you own a home, you can rent that out and then perhaps somebody's actually paying off your mortgage for you. I would say the new age way of doing this is through Airbnbs, but right now might not be the best time to get into that. However, you might think about investing in a property that you're then going to rent out when the pandemic kind of slows down. As for other ideas, there are people who rent out their house or condo to be used for movie sets or TV shows. So that's something that's pretty cool because you can go to work and you come back and you're paid just for not being in the house. But the real question is, when you don't have the money to buy a house or a condo, what do you do then, right? Well, I know people who will rent out a 2-bedroom apartment and sublet one of the rooms out, and that way they're actually getting a little bit of extra income coming in, and they're also getting their apartment for a little cheaper than you'd get a 1-bedroom for. So that's another way around this. And I think that's actually a pretty good transition into the next one, and that's capital gains. Capital gains is when you have an asset and that increases in value. So that's really when you own something and it becomes worth more. So examples, a house. And that's a great one because you have to live somewhere and houses are always increasing in value. But as I said, not everyone can afford a house. So what do you do then? Well, I know one person who invests in purses. She invests in high-end purses knowing that the value is ultimately going to go up and she can then one day sell them and make a bunch of money. Jay-Z gave an example of art. He invests in art, and a lot of people do because art increases in value. And the last example I'm going to give you is one that you might know about. In a lot of cultures, people actually give gold for wedding gifts. And the reason they do this is because gold increases in value. So you're not just giving somebody something that looks good or is nice to wear, but you're actually giving them an investment. So if you own any gold, jewelry, or actually silver, things like that can also increase in value. And then there's royalty income. This is when you get paid by people who are using your idea, product, or invention. And the first example that comes to mind is licensing. You can come up with an invention, give that to a large company who will mass produce it for you, and they'll get it out there, and every time they make a sale, you'll get paid for it. Now, one of the things I realized about royalty income, or what I've noticed at least, is that it usually comes with having a special skill. Not everyone can come up with inventions, but if you're an artist, this is a good way to make some money. Similar to residual income, you're getting paid for something that you did a while ago. So you might have written that song 10 years ago, but if they're still singing it, you're still getting paid. So the question is, why is this important? Well, when I was counting how many income streams I have, I realized that I had been ignoring almost 20% of my income because I was only focused on my earned income. What does that mean? That means I had no financial plan for almost 20% of the money I make. I wasn't thinking about how I can reinvest this, and you don't want to be making that mistake. This is a really good place to start when you're trying to figure out what your finances look like and how you can make a plan for them. In terms of how many income streams I have, I realized I fell into 5, and I was really excited about that because honestly, I didn't expect to have more than 2. But as I said, just over 80% of my income comes from my earned income, so there's a ton of potential and room for growth for me in those other areas. And I just want to say, if you only have 1 or 2 income streams, don't be discouraged. It means that there's a lot of potential for you. What you really need to do, and what I've done, is come up with a goal for myself. How many income streams do you want to have? If you're at 1, maybe by the end of the year, you want to have a second. And it doesn't have to be making a lot of money, it just needs to get started. For me, my goal is to get to 7 because I want to replicate what millionaires do. So my question for you is, how many income streams do you fall into? And I guess before you calculate that, I should also say, this is not talking about how you're making your money, it's talking about the categories. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if you have 2 jobs, that's 1 income stream, and that's earned income. If you have 3 companies that are paying you dividends, that's 1 income stream, it's your dividend income. So really think about the categories you fall into and count it that way. So my question for you is, how many income streams do you have? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to see if you have 1 or 2, or maybe you have 7. And if you do, let us know how you did it because we'd love to get tips from you. And while you're writing your comment, don't forget to hit subscribe and don't forget to hit that like button because that would really help me out. I'll be back next week with common financial mistakes students are doing in 2021 and how you might be leaving money on the table. I'll see you then.